And we'll just give that a few seconds to roll over there. Technology catching up with us. I'd like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. Today we are at United Ability at the Hand in Hand Center. And we are going to be talking about First Teacher Home Visiting Program. We have Leanne Haynes, who is a parent and program advocate, and Mrs. Robin Parks, who is a First Teacher Home Visiting Program Manager. At this point, I'd like to hand it over. Mrs. Haynes, if you would introduce yourself.
Sure. Like you said, I'm Leanne. I am really passionate about this program. I've had a child enrolled in it. I've been a home visitor. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to chat about it.
So you currently have a child that's enrolled in this program that we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
And how old is your child?
She's almost 3. She'll be 3 in October.
How long has she been in the program?
She's only been in the program for about 6 months, I think, but I've worked with the program for a few years.
Yeah, so you knew about the program ahead of time and thought it would be appropriate for your family.
Yes.
So, awesome. Mrs. Parks, if you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Robin. I am the manager of our First Teacher Home Visiting Program. I have been working with this program for about a year. I have 2 kids of my own and really enjoy getting to support families in this role.
And how did you come to work with United Ability? What is that story?
I actually had a friend who worked in the early intervention program here who told me about the opening with this program. I love the idea of providing that all-around support to families and the mission of United Ability, supporting individuals with disabilities. I have a brother with Down syndrome, and so it all just kind of fit well together.
Yeah, it's quite a campus, everything that United Ability is doing here, continuing to grow. So we enjoy learning more about these. So let's dig in a little bit more to the program we're going to be talking about today. What exactly is the First Teacher Home Visiting Program?
So I kind of think of it as like a parent or family support program. We provide services to families, moms prenatally through kids in kindergarten. It's home visiting, so we go into the home and we work with a curriculum called Parents as Teachers, which is evidence-based. It's wonderful. And the visits they involve a bunch of different things, an activity, discussion around development and how to parent and meet your child where they're at, and then family well-being, which is where we look at the family system as a whole, because we believe that the wellness of each individual impacts the health and development of the child. So we serve Jefferson County, and starting October 1st, we're going to serve Shelby County as well. And yeah, we kind of just go into the home and meet families where they're at and support them along the way, because it can be so isolating to be a parent or caregiver. So we try to just come alongside them. Yeah.
So you're going out during the day, or is this more in the evening after work, or?
We meet the families when we can.
Yeah.
So a lot of our families, like parents and caregivers, work full time, or kids are in daycare. So in those cases, like we'll meet them in the evenings usually. We have some families who there's a parent at home with the child. We'll meet them during the day. We're quite flexible. Yeah.
So just kind of to summarize as an overview, if I was a parent and I felt like I was a little overwhelmed, this is something, maybe my first time parent, or maybe this is my second child, and he or she has some unique challenges and I'm uncertain of how to meet those, then I can call and get enrolled in this program, and you would send out a teacher to, teach my child, but also teach me how to best support them.
We really want to come alongside the parent and caregiver. We want to give them the tools that they need to parent well, to support their child. We want to really help facilitate parent-child interaction and engagement. So it's not necessarily us coming in and playing with your kid. We want to give you time and materials and supplies and ideas of how you can engage with your child, how you can notice the different child development milestones, and how you can continue to push them forward in their development.
Yeah, so to be a success story, it's not like thinking of this in they're going to come in and babysit my child for an hour a week, something like that. It's actually, you're enrolling to take a class.
Right, and sometimes that's hard for the parents and caregivers to kind of catch on to. You know, they expect us to come in with toys or supplies or whatever, and they think we're going to do a craft with their kid, but we really want them to get involved in that, and we're there to just help support and provide, you know, whatever is needed for that to be a success for them.
Yeah, and long term too, because the parent is with the child more than you're going to be with them.
Yes.
So they have to have the skills for that long term success there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we recognize the parent is the first teacher, so they, you know, have the most influence over their kids, especially in this 0 to 3 range and before school starts. Their child is learning a lot from them and their home environment.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of jump around on the questions, but how many families are currently enrolled in this program?
We currently have 51. We're able to have 70, so we have room for more families. Always looking to, you know, interact with different community agencies to help get the word out about our program and get more families involved.
So if you guys call in today to United Ability and ask to be enrolled in the First Teacher Home Visiting Program, they have open spots.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yes, it is free.
So there's no cost to the family.
No, it's a federally funded program, so we can, you know, we come to you, you don't pay a penny. It's a win-win.
Now, if they're saying on the other line, yeah, this sounds too good to be true, what are some requirements or eligibilities?
Well, we require you to show up and
Yeah.
to keep your appointments and to engage. And that's really it. And that sounds like not much, but we know that being a parent and caregiver is exhausting and can be difficult. And so sometimes at the end of the day, you're like, oh no, this lady's coming in my house. I don't know if I have the energy. Yeah, yes. Which please don't clean up. We've seen it all.
Yep.
But we just ask that you're present and show up.
So have consistency there.
Yes.
Consistency for your child.
Yes.
So let's talk about why this program is needed from a parent perspective.
Yeah, so it's needed to help support the well-being of the parent so they can continue to support the healthy development and well-being of the child. We're able to help them access resources that they might need or might not know how to navigate. We're also able to, through our curriculum that we use, that you mentioned, promote school readiness, which is really big.
I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of families feel overwhelmed when they have a child. And then if it's a child that has special needs and needs additional help, it can feel low. And we've had a dad's group on Alabama Care before. Lane Hagan has been awesome as an anchor. And one of the things that they talked about during that broadcast was the divorce rate amongst families and how high it is for parents of a child with a disability. And I think a lot of times that can come from stress of not knowing how to navigate that. This would be one of the first steps when you're in a new environment to try and learn those skills, those coping mechanisms, those kinds of things. And it really sounds like this program helps the parent take care of themselves in a way by managing, you know, how to best help their child.
Yeah, absolutely. We love to talk about all different family relationships. We also do talk a lot about mental health and well-being of the parent. You know, we want to make sure that they know it's something they can talk about because it is a challenge for parents. It is definitely a strain on marriages. When you add a child into the mix, I think we've both experienced that. But we want to make sure that parent knows that, you know, it's okay to talk about those challenges and that we're here to support and, if needed, provide access to resources that will support them even more in that area.
Now, you mentioned this program will also help in prenatal care. I don't know that word very well. I've never been pregnant, but that's before giving birth, correct?
Sure.
So
yeah.
how do you receive services in that?
Yeah, so we get referrals often from other agencies and organizations in the community who work with moms that are pregnant, and this might be like a younger mom or a first-time mom or, you know, a mom who's just like very curious and wants to learn. And so those visits obviously look different because there's not like a child to interact with, but it's a lot of discussion around like how do we keep you healthy as far as your mental health and physical health, and then how do we prepare your home, your life for this new baby. So the child, there doesn't have to be any like risks or anything for the child. It can just be a mom who's curious and needs a little extra support.
Yeah, so there doesn't have to be any official diagnosis or anything like that
No.
to receive services. Anybody who is pregnant can request to become part of this program.
Yeah, and that's like, that I highly recommend it for especially a first-time mom, because speaking from experience, it's so overwhelming, and if you start Googling, it's like, ugh. There's so much information out there where like this is like a person who has access to resources that are evidence-based and quality, and you can discuss things with them. So I always highly recommend it for a new pregnant mom.
So what types of things can you do, like in that prenatal phase? You mentioned going into the home, getting the home ready. What does that look like?
I mean,
I'm trying to think, like, how is
Yeah.
my home, is it baby proof? Like, what are we talking about?
most homes aren't until you really go through the process. Yeah, it's talking about like, you know, when you first bring that baby home, like what does that look like? What supplies do I need? Let's say I don't have the resources to purchase those supplies myself. What are organizations in our community that might help you with that? Or how can we find ways around that? So it might be like literal things, and it also might be like a mindset of like, let's plan for the next 3 months. We know you're going to be tired. We know you're going to need to be fed, you know, things like that, and kind of just preparing in that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of your current 51 families that are in the program, would you say they are single moms or single dads or?
Oh, it's a wide mix.
It is, yeah.
We also, along with those, have a lot of grandparents as caretakers.
Okay.
So they're parenting again
Yeah.
and just looking for that extra support of what do I do with a 2-year-old now that I haven't done this in a while.
And a lot has changed in the philosophy of raising a child in the last 50 years.
So,
I know my parents were raised different than I was.
Yeah. So we have that. And sometimes we can even meet with, which I think is unique, caregivers like grandparents or relatives who are taking care of children during the day while parents are at work. So I have, you know, a grandma who keeps her grandkids, and I meet with her while the parents are at work, and she's able to take in that information too, since she's spending so much time with them.
Yeah, and a lot falls on the individual that you're training there, because then they have to take that, the stuff that they've learned from you, to the rest of the family and kind of teach them. Do you give them resources? Because I know, like, if I go to a class or I'm in a class, I have to have stuff that I can read later or videos that I can watch later. Are there resources in between these visits that you can kind of reference to help teach the rest of the family?
So we bring lots of handouts.
I was gonna say, we love a handout.
Definitely one thing I tell families we enroll, I'm going to bring you lots of handouts. Keep what you want. If it doesn't, you know, apply to you, if it doesn't fit with what you're wanting to know, don't keep it. So we're going to bring actually a handout that has the activity information on it. So if you want to repeat that activity and do it again, it's right there ready for you to see what materials do I need, what are the steps to do. That handout will also highlight what area of development the activity is targeting.
So a little bit of the science behind it.
Yes. And then another thing I love is a parenting behavior. So what can you as a parent be working on while you're doing this activity with your child? And so our curriculum has 5 parenting behaviors that we focus on and that we want to help the parents with, as well as, you know, working on those developmental areas with the child. We will bring handouts about, you know, parenting topics, whether that's potty training, whether that's how to deal with a temper tantrum and anything in between. And then the family well-being aspect is the third part of our visits usually, and that can be education and employment for the parent. That can be physical health, mental health, access to basic essentials. We can, you know, help them navigate housing, where can I get food. Diapers is a big one that we help a lot of our families with. You know, where can we get access to diapers when we need it, and wipes and things like that.
Yeah. Is there a diaper place you recommend? There's one in Opelika that we're going to start using. Is that the one you're going to talk about?
We often refer families to Grace Klein. They do
Yeah.
like a monthly pickup. You just,
Okay.
swing by, pick it up, free, no questions asked.
We're going to reach out
Bundles
to
of
them for
Hope.
some advertising dollars after this.
Yes, yes.
Bundles of Hope is another diaper
Yes.
bank in the Birmingham area.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, there's a lot of science behind it. And it seems like, you're signing up for a course to teach yourself as a parent. This may be new. You may not have gone through this before, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This program that you guys are doing, that you've done, is a nationwide program that's being implemented here in Alabama by United Ability. So there's a lot of science, there's a lot of research behind this. You don't have to go into this blind trying to Google everything.
No.
Reach out, find your tribe, find your peer support, and you guys will help walk them through this process.
Absolutely.
But you need family buy-in, I think. I think it can't just
Yes.
really just be one parent. You really have to make a commitment as a family to dive into this and put the work in. It'll pay benefits, but you have to make that decision.
For sure, for sure.
And who would you say is a prime candidate? Who is like a picture perfect that you see, you're like, oh my gosh, you would really love this program. Who do you picture there?
I think young moms. We work with teen moms, first-time parents, grandparents or relatives as caregivers for sure, and then parents who have children with differing needs and abilities.
I think we also often can catch families that let's say you notice your child is behind in speech, or you feel oh wait, he should be walking, what's going on, and maybe he's not yet qualifying for early intervention, or there's it's you're not quite hitting the mark. We are great for that because it's still support, it's still free. We can provide activities that cater to those needs and goals you have, and then we also do developmental screenings with every child. We do them quite often, and they're great because they catch those oh wait, I noticed that he isn't able to feed himself with a spoon. Is he supposed to be able to do that? Let's work on that. And then if things aren't improving, then how can we'll refer you to OT, PT, speech, whatever you need. So I think that's often a family that we really like to work with.
Yeah, where maybe they're questioning, is my child going at the same pace, like you mentioned,
Yes.
those types of things. But you wouldn't go out and diagnose
No.
at the house, but you're noticing these trends and saying, these are what other practices have helped children kind of get over this challenge in their learning.
Yes, or even what is normal, because I think that part of it is just not knowing what is expected at that age. I think sometimes we want our kids to just overachieve, and so we might be thinking why isn't my kid saying 200 words?
Why are you playing the piano?
Yeah, why aren't you a prodigy? And so it's being okay, but look at what the science says and what we know is to be expected at this age, and just having a real conversation, because I think we can get ahead of ourselves, and then knowing what to work on, oh, my child isn't doing X, well now I can focus on that for the next month and see what happens.
One thing I love about our program being here at United Ability is we're able to work closely with the early intervention team here, with the hand-in-hand preschool program, and often we'll get families referred from both of those programs for different reasons. And so maybe it is they didn't qualify, but the early intervention team will refer them to us. Or we also get several times families who are aging out of early intervention, and maybe they want to make sure there's someone there to continue providing support as they look at school services, or maybe they're doing well and they're not sure if they're going to qualify for school services. We can be that bridge until it's time for kindergarten.
It's really nice having the campus here, like you mentioned, at United Ability, because it's all inclusive. It's cohesive, so you can go from one program to the next. And as you mentioned, get referrals. So as a family, you're really cushioned as long as you get into the system. I see so many families that they don't know about the system, and it's you got to get started early.
Yeah.
The earlier, the better. Get into the system.
Yeah, I always say why not try, the evaluation for EI, for example, is free, let me help you get set up with that, and then maybe you don't qualify, maybe you do, but it's worth a try. Like you said, early intervention is key.
Yeah. Worst case they say is no, but
Right.
most likely there's
Right.
19 spots open, so take advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about an example success story. So is there one that sticks out from your time working in the program?
Yeah.
Let Leanne share.
I have a family who I met the child when he turned 3, which is when you, if you're serving early intervention services, that's when you age out. And so, like Robin was talking about, there's like this weird time between aging out of EI and starting kindergarten where like you might not get services if you're not doing all the things you need to be doing. And it can be quite confusing and a lot to go through. So I have a family who, when I met them, they had just they didn't qualify for these services anymore their child was receiving. They suspected he had autism, but they didn't know what to do. And so a lot of our visits were just focused on like, okay, here are the resources in our community. How do we get a diagnosis? What services do we think would support this child? What do we do to get him set up for kindergarten in a public school? And so now that child is in ABA. Next year starts kindergarten. He's made huge strides by like getting these services so quickly. That mom is an all-star. She is such an advocate, and she really just like knows what her kid needs. And I was so honored to just be like there to just kind of plug in like the questions, you know, like, okay, well, where do we go? And what does that mean? And, you know, I just tried to be there to support in that way. And to me that it's successful because the child's doing well, but also the mom is feeling confident and like hopeful about her child's future.
Mm-hmm. It gains a lot of confidence there.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
So it's like fill in the blank.
Yeah, human cheat sheet.
Yeah, and it's a lot of peer-to-peer support.
Yeah.
So as a parent helping other parents,
Yeah.
relating to them, like you mentioned, kind of holding their hand, walking through that. And I think it's really important for the services to be as early as possible. We're kind of getting out of the pandemic now, but all these stories are coming out where kids, if they couldn't go to the traditional classroom, have been suffering on their test scores, those types of things. And if you have a child that can receive these services, that's kind of like a pandemic area for them early in life if they're not receiving the services. And that can snowball there. It's like, kind of like math. Like you have to master math before you can get to the next grade. If you're not doing well in math, it doesn't get any easier. So you got to compound on these services here. So take advantage of them early and often.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so once again, we can do prenatal up to 5.
Yes.
There's a cutoff at 5.
Yeah, it's a little bit like of a blurry line because if your child has an IEP and is enrolled in kindergarten, we can technically work with them, like our funding works that we can work with them through kindergarten. So let's say your child is like about to start kindergarten and you would like support for the next year and they have an IEP and have a diagnosis, then we can enroll that child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I would think of it as prenatal, by the time you know you're pregnant,
Yes.
to going to school, kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of that area
Yeah.
there. How do I sign up? So I'm interested in this. How do I contact you guys? How do I get enrolled? Is there paperwork I got to fill out?
Yeah, so you can call or email me or United Ability, and
We're going to
they'll
blow up.
get you
I'm going to put your
connected.
email in the chat.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
You can do
cat
that.
memes incoming.
And we'll reach out, you know, once we get your information, we'll reach out to talk to you, hear a little bit about why you're interested in our program, and set up an enrollment visit. And that is where we will fill out all the needed paperwork. And then from there, we do visits once to twice a month, depending on the family's needs, you know, what different stressors they have, and their availability. So that is how you get started. And we serve, again, Jefferson and Shelby County, but it is a statewide program.
Yes.
So you can go to the Department of Early Childhood Education's website and get information for anywhere in the state.
Now, how long does enrollment take? Is it usually if I call them in a week that we got our first visit, or maybe a month?
Say a week or two.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
could-
so not
Yeah.
very long. Pretty quick turnaround there.
Yeah, we try to be on top of it.
Yeah, and then you mentioned once or twice a month is kind of the normal visit schedule.
Yes. Most families we see twice a month, so every other week is kind of the schedule.
Yeah.
And some families are once a month.
Kind of as a refresher there. What did you guys do during the pandemic? Did you go virtual with those meetings?
Yes, yeah. So I actually started working for the program during the pandemic,
Yeah.
which was a very unique experience. But yeah, Zoom visits, phone calls, dropping off materials in mailboxes and on porches. And I mean, the silver lining of it is that now we have the resources and ability to do virtual visits. So like, let's say a family's like, okay, like one visit in person a month, but like my schedule's hectic. Could you do like a phone call at like the second visit? Like, we're happy to accommodate that. So I think that while it was stressful and weird and awkward, I think that it kind of was a blessing, and that now we have more ways to serve families and to connect with family.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, I mean, I didn't know the term Zoom before the pandemic,
No.
and now everybody's like, hey, let's get on a Zoom. It's like new words. And all these kids, they're always coming up with new words, but Zoom I know. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do
all right.
have some families we see only virtually. So that is an option
Yeah.
if it's
There's
just
like a
what
health
works best
concern
for
or
you.
like
yeah.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I prefer the in-persons,
Yeah,
me
I do
personally.
we do too.
I like it, like the pandemic took a
Most
toll on me.
parents do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to see it in action.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm learning this. So speaking of that, I get enrolled, come out in the first visit. What does that look like? Maybe I'm a little bit nervous. Maybe I'm a little bit nervous to have somebody in my home around my child. What would you say to a parent what that first visit's actually going to look like to kind of ease them?
So the first visit, we're going to bring toys, blocks, puzzles, whatever. There's going to be really no pressure on the child to do anything. We typically just have the toys, we'll put them out and kind of let the child, do what they want to do. And then it is a paperwork heavy visit. So we're going to be filling out all kinds of forms, signing releases, all of that. Oftentimes we'll try to bring another coworker with us so that one can focus on the paperwork and one can play with the child. And I do know it can be intimidating. I think it's intimidating on our end too to go into a home that you've never been to. But we want to let you know that you don't have to clean up.
Don't clean
We're
up.
just here to support you. There's no expectation on the parent other than to be present and engaged.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps to know that like we are going to bring anything that's needed for the visit.
Yes.
We're going to bring that with us. You don't have to supply anything. As we build a relationship with you, if there's a certain activity you want to do, we have handouts for like cooking. Well, if you have some supplies and you want to cook, like yes. But we are going to bring everything. There's no expectation for the parent to have anything prepared other than be there with their kids.
And I imagine during those first few visits, it's really important to get to know the child and the child to get to know you. Do you have some children that are really standoffish and cautious of you?
Oh yeah.
and how do you kind of break through that and vibe with the child?
I'll share an example.
Yeah.
I worked with a family who, yes, a child had a lot of separation anxiety. I still work with this family, but and would not leave mom's lap. And so we, started. They would sit on one couch. I would sit on another couch. I put the supplies out there and just stand back. And I'm just there talking to the mom, letting the child do whatever it is that she wants to do. And it actually only took a few visits of her, the child, realizing that there's no expectation of what I was going to do with her, for her to warm up a little bit and start playing. I think that's one thing I've seen with the early intervention versus our program. Early intervention, those therapists are there to work with the child, and they want to interact with them. I don't have to do that. I love to do it. I'm happy to do it, but I don't have to be in the child's space, so we can take a step back, wait until that child warms up to us. I actually have another family that's very similar. I sit, at the opposite end of the table from the mom and child, and they do their thing, and I'm there to support mom, talk to her, and let the child interact how they want to.
Yeah.
We really try to focus on one, meeting the families where they're at, the child where they're at, and two, what's more important to us in that moment is what's going on with the parent and the child. How can we support that relationship? Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna leave, but like they're still gonna be together. And so I think like we try to be patient, we try to be calm, we try to meet kids where they're at, and we also just try to say, this isn't about me, you know, I'm here to support.
I feel like sometimes parents and children can feel like a lot of this stuff, the trips they're making is very clinical. And that can kind of turn a lot of people off. I don't want another specialist in the house examining my child,
100%,
you know, those types of things. So it's important to make that bond with the child. Hey, I'm not a threat. We're just going to play here today, and I'm going to be talking with your mom and your dad.
Like it's a we want it to be a relaxed environment. These families, like you said, sometimes are seeing like 10 different therapists and doctors throughout their week. And so, we try to come in and just be more of like a support and just to be present with them.
I'm going to acknowledge chat. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was just going to make a point talking about all the different appointments that we can come out, you know, during different appointments. You don't have to set aside a time just for us. So if your schedule is already like overloaded, you don't know how you can fit in anything else, we can come when a therapist is coming. We can meet you at a doctor's appointment. It's very like flexible in, you know, how and when we can meet with you and your family, and we want to do what works best for you. So that is an option. You don't have to have a separate thing just for us to come out another hour of your week that, you know, you have to set aside.
That I'm sure the families really enjoy that too, because the doctor's appointments can seem chaotic. You have to take like a half a day off, you know, and all those things add up. And being able to meet, you've said it before, meet the families where they are. To kind of combine those visits is something that reminds me of the STEP transition clinic that has been presented here at United Ability, and that's kind of the adolescent aging into the healthcare from your parents to, you know, other healthcare stuff, pediatric to adult care. So you're able to consolidate some of those visits for the families, make it easy. Give a call, we'll make it work.
Exactly.
So we got through the first visit, came out, we did some paperwork, got to, you know, introduce you to my son or my daughter. Then what do visits look like after that? What can I expect long term if I'm a parent?
Do you want to answer that? What it looks like for you?
Yes. So the way that, you know, when we're planning a visit, we kind of break it up into these 3 sections. We have a parent-child interaction, that's the activity that we've referred to. We have development-centered parenting, that's where we can discuss all sorts, you know, anything from behavior to nutrition to, you know, literally anything, and just how to adjust parenting to where your kid's at. And then the last aspect is family well-being, and that's where we might be checking in about your mental health or your goals and your needs. So we kind of go in with that plan, and obviously sometimes it goes that way and sometimes it doesn't. We spend about an hour to, you know, 60 to 75 minutes with the family. And, you know, we're going to walk in and say like, hey, here's what I have planned today, but what do you need? And just kind of see where they're at. The other thing that we do, I think I talked about, was like developmental screenings, mental health screenings, things like that. So there might be a portion of the visit dedicated to talking about or talking through those screenings. But yeah, you expect an activity, expect us to give you handouts and talk about handouts, but also expect to have like a conversation. Like if you're just like, today like sucked, you know, like I'm tired, like we had a tantrum at Walmart, I'm not doing well. It's like, all right, let's talk about that. Or like, you know, we could talk about your family relationships, anything. So we try to just be open and flexible in the visit, but expect us to show up and be ready for whatever.
About an hour and 10 minutes. And I think it's nice that it's broken up into sections so I know what to expect. And being able to speak to somebody else, as you mentioned it, sometimes families feel isolated. They feel like there's nobody else out there. They can't relate to other families in their community, and they have to be able to talk to people. You got to be able to talk, and you realize there's this rich community that's willing to help you, wants to help you, and all of these services behind that, these services and supports. But you got to make that first phone call, and you got to get connected into those services.
Another thing I love about our curriculum and the visits is that we also recognize that you as a parent are like the expert on your child and what's going on in your home. So we're going to ask questions. We're going to not just give you information, but we want to know, what are you doing? What's working? What has not worked? What on this handout have you done? And you're like, that is not working for us. So we want to hear, from you, asking those questions to learn more about where you're at, what's working for you. I've learned about great resources, from our families that I can share with others. I've gotten, ideas from them as well. So we know that you have a lot to offer as a parent, and we want to hear that too.
Meeting the parent where they are is just sticking to me right now. I'm going to acknowledge chat here. Susan Harris Conwell says, wonderful job, Robin and Leanne. First teacher program rocks. Thanks, Alabama Care. Thank you, Mrs. Conwell. Appreciate you being here. And United Ability for putting in the information for contact. Appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Perry. One of the things that's listed on the website is, helping families be more integrated in their community, and I'm wondering, what does that look like? What would you say? Maybe someone doesn't realize that they're not being inclusive in their community.
Yeah. We spoke about how we really refer back to family systems theory and how the wellness of each family member impacts the child. And we've also talked a lot about how parenting, especially a child with disability, is like super isolating. You might be scared to take your kid to the zoo because what if there's a meltdown major and you feel alone and people are looking at you, or that you're not sure about the accessibility of a place. And so the last thing that we want to see is a family just staying home thinking that they're alone and they're not able to be out in the world and do the things they love. So we're always talking about resources in the community, and so that might be here's a place that we know is accessible to you. Here's a place where it's outdoor, why don't we could go meet for a visit and try it together, and I could be there to support you. We know it's hard to continue normal life after you have a child, but it's so important that you do. And obviously things change a lot, but you still should be able to go outside and get sunshine on your face and meet people and talk to people and know that you're not alone. So we just try to encourage families, give them opportunities and resources and connections to be out in the world and know that there are other families going through these experiences.
Yeah, my family member, I took her to the botanical gardens, and one of her favorite things to do is tear stuff up with her hands.
Okay.
So her hands are kind of clenched a little bit, and it's good for her to work with her hands. One of her favorite things to do is tear up magazines at the house, or if we're out on the porch, she loves tearing up leaves, stuff like that. We go to the botanical gardens, and she's wanting to tear up all these really nice, leaves and stuff like that, and we actually got in trouble. One of the rangers come, she can't do that. This is so-and-so plant. I'm I'm so sorry. But then we pulled away from there, so she didn't have access to that. And then she did not like that. And she was acting out and screaming bloody murder, And so I think a lot of families are what happens if that happens in Walmart?
Yes.
People are going to think that I'm not taking care of my family member or my child. What would you say to them?
It's such a valid fear. I mean, and you're not alone. Truly, every family I talk to is dealing with some version of that. And, I wish I could say, I promise that no one will look at you and judge you. But obviously we don't know that. But I think knowing that you are enough as a parent, you're doing a really good job, and that you know your kid best, and just trying to, accommodate how you can. So let's say maybe you're I would feel more comfortable if I had another adult with me in this when we go to Walmart. That would just make me feel safe, So it's we want to kind of push that fear a little bit, but also how can we make you feel comfortable, which is why I love our program's flexibility, because it's let's go to Walmart together and let's try it. And then if it all just goes downhill, I'm here with you. You're not alone.
Yeah. I think it is important to push those boundaries a little bit and gain that confidence. And the other thing is, too, I think sometimes the general community maybe has a negative reaction just because they don't understand. They don't have access to that.
Yes.
And so it kind of falls back on our shoulders as guardians or as parents to educate them. No, this is okay. This is my aunt. When she doesn't like something, this is how she lets me know.
Yeah.
I encourage you to walk up, say hi to her, give her a fist bump. She loves meeting new people, those types of things. And then once you have that confidence, it'll run there, but it can be very scary thinking about it for the first time, or maybe you've had it happen before. And you're like, I don't want that to ever happen again.
Yeah.
I felt like.
And I always at least in my personal life, I'll think about and maybe it's hard for me to imagine doing something like this for myself, but think about what are you doing for the community or for other families who have kids in a similar position by going out there and having visibility and having those conversations of yeah, this is what happens. This is my kid. This is me. You're allowing more space in our community to have more visibility and to have more access. So I think if you can think of it like that, then that might help you out.
The world is on your shoulders. You're literally speaking for the disability community by going to Walmart and showing people, what inclusion looks like, and giving others the opportunity to interact.
Yeah,
I think is a big one.
Yeah.
So we have teachers coming out to the house once or twice a month. Do you guys have any connections between the families in between there? Anything monthly online groups or anything like that?
Yeah, we do monthly group connections, is what they're called. Basically just an event that all the families in our program are invited to once a month. So we've done a splash pad before. We sometimes will host meals during the holidays. This month we have collected things and we're doing a free store so our families can come and get anything they might need, so they're able to get things they need, also interact with other families in our program. The kids can come and it's a fun time for them to get to see us outside of their home, but also to connect with other families.
Do the kids come to that as well?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I bet the kids really enjoy playing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys meet in here and the kids kind of take over? Or?
We meet all sorts of places. We've done events here on campus. We've done, our last event was at the Botanical Gardens actually where we kind of set families up with scavenger hunts and things
cool.
like that. We mix it up, I would say.
Yeah.
But kids come for sure. Yeah.
And a lot of times it's good to get out of the house. Maybe you haven't gotten out of the house as often as you like. And when's the last time you've been to the zoo, I think for a lot of people.
And you can practice the thing that we were just talking about, which is going out in the world, but the people around you are going to be extra understanding.
Yeah. It's a great first experience there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything happens, they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
They surround you and keep you safe.
You're good company.
Yeah. So I can get this, I can be a part of this program here at United Ability, the First Teacher Home Visiting Program. What if I'm not within United Ability? How far do you guys travel?
Our program serves Jefferson and Shelby County, the whole county.
What if I'm outside of those counties? What if I'm in Mobile County?
So there are home visiting programs in every county in the state. So you go to Department of Early Childhood Education's website, and they have a state lead and their contact information listed there. You can reach out, say I'm interested in joining this program, and they will connect you with the person in your county that does that service.
So this, you can receive, it's federal as well. So and no matter where you are in the U.S., you can get it. You have to call your local state, the education, and then get transferred that. There's no cost to the family.
No cost.
This all comes from federal tax monies, basically given back to families.
Yep. And we're also able to help, with supplies sometimes, like diapers and wipes. We want to connect you with community resources so that you can be, self-sufficient in that and knowing where to go to get those things, but we're able to bring those supplies out. We're able to sometimes give out gift cards to our families. We love to try to support them any way we can.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We did a broadcast the other day about rural services and how it can be tough outside of the major cities. So to be able to serve Shelby as well is really cool.
Yeah.
Do we have any upcoming events through United Ability or through the First Teacher Home Visiting Program that you would recommend families or individuals attend?
Yeah, so coming up on October 13th, there's a Disability Hiring Expo here at United Ability, and you can check out our Facebook page for more information on that. United Ability is also co-hosting the statewide Early Intervention Conference in Mobile, and then I think that's it. Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
And always call if you want to get into this program right now. You can. There is an
Yep.
opening.
Yep.
We have the information in chat there. We're going to be at the Disability Hiring Expo next month, so look to
Nice.
see you guys there.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing some interviewing from there. As we wrap up today's broadcast, what haven't we talked about that you think a parent or an individual could really benefit from hearing?
I mean, I would say you're not alone.
Right.
It's okay that it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Everyone's going through it, you know, and that it's okay to ask for help, whether it be our program, whether it be something else. It's okay to ask for help. These resources are here for you, and yeah, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, I think I would also just say you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You are doing a great job. You know your child best, and I know that you are supporting them in the best way you know how. And if we can support you as you do that, we would love to.
Very well said. I appreciate that. And thank you for taking time with us this morning to explain more about what you guys do here at United Ability.
Yeah, thank you for giving us
Thank
that
you.
opportunity.
Yeah. Mrs. Haynes and Mrs. Parks, at this time, we'll go ahead and give our respective cameras a wave. And we'll say, see you guys next time.
See you next time.
And Clifton will go ahead and take us off